What's up, everybody? Thomas Claxton here, and you guys are tuned in to the Sitting In with Thomas Claxton podcast. This is your stop for the behind-the-scenes dive straight into the heart of the music industry. Here, I interview some of the world's best in multiple fields, ranging from performers to producers and engineers, manufacturer CEOs, technologists, entrepreneurs, representative firms, technicians, attorneys, CPAs, and much more to give you guys an insider's perspective. The advice, the road stories, and the insider's point of view on an industry and where its future lies. It's all right here. And remember, if you guys like what you see, like, share, and subscribe. You guys sit back and enjoy. Thanks a lot.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Bryan Ottens.
How you doing, Thomas?
Good, my friend. Good. How about this, the 2020 NAMM Show, man? I mean, look at this.
I'm loving it.
This is beautiful.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, with new decade going into things, you know, lots of things changing, some things coming back around. You know, I was at the breakfast earlier, and Joe was saying, you know, it's almost like the industry's gone full circle. You know, like it started off as a bunch of live playing musicians and going out, and then we went through the recording phase, and now we're all back to making money playing music live. So, you know, I think that's a good thing. What do you think?
I love it. I see the transition happening.
I dig it, man. I'm a performer, so, you know, that's my thing. You know, but so you are the first guest, the Sitting In with Thomas Claxton podcast here at the Gator Cases booth at the NAMM Show.
I'm honored.
Honored.
I'm honored and excited at the same time.
Well, we'll see what you say at the end of the show. So I got to tell you, and I've told you the other day, I've told you this several times, but you are literally one of the biggest inspirations that I've known over the past year and a half that we've known each other.
Oh, come on, go on.
Nope, seriously, man. You know, as a live performing musician myself, you know, it's really cool to see someone, you know, who played music, went out and did the entire thing, enjoyed it, started up your, and, you know, went into being an entrepreneur, running the business thing, you know. So, and now look at you, man. You're the president of Peter E. Schmitt.
Yes, sir.
So tell me a little.
Wild journey.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Peter E. Schmitt, what you guys do.
So we are manufacturers representatives in Metro New York for professional AV and MI products. We represent, you know, brands such as Shure microphones, QSC, Gibson, Pro Audio. So, you know, some of the best brands in our industry in what I would say is the best market in our industry, which is New York City.
Oh, well, look, that's mad respect right there, because anybody can tackle New York City. That's a job in itself.
Yes, sir.
You know, I've spent a little time in New York, and being from the South, every time I go up to New York, man, it's like a big culture shock. You know, we're really laid-back people in the South. And
we're to the point.
Oh, yeah, to the point. You know, I didn't know how to take it at first. I remember I went up there for the first time after I graduated high school, and I thought everybody around the world acted like we act down there, and that wasn't the case at all.
Nope.
I said hello
faster pace.
Oh, for sure. I said hello to someone in New York City, and I didn't get the desired response I was looking for. But that's okay. That's all right, man. So, so how long have you been at Peter E. Schmitt?
So I started back in 2004.
Right.
Basically, it's a very, you know, basic position in the company, calling on chain stores and working on the inside office, and you know, putting in my time, learning the business. Worked my way up through the company over the years, and throughout the time really did every single position within the company, and ultimately I ended up buying the company from my previous owner, Mike Schmitt, back in 2013.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So you're living proof that you can take it from the grassroots right down to the lower level and work it all the way up to the top. Absolutely. And become the head honcho, man, the main man in charge.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, man. But, you know, before you were, you know, you obviously got your roots in playing music.
Correct.
And I can attest to this. You're an incredible piano player.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
so,
you.
When did you start playing piano?
So started playing piano at around the age of 7. Official lessons at the age of 7. Previous to that, I always kind of had a knack, or I took to it. I remember this is the earliest memory of my musical experience is we were at the checkout line at the grocery store, and they had these little candies that had like a little keyboard on it. You could press the button down, and it made a note or a sound. Mm-hmm. And I became obsessed with it, right? So I sat on the couch, I'm like a 5-year-old or 6-year-old kid, and I'm sounding out and playing melodies on this little candy wrappered keyboard.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how it started. My parents from there got me, I remember this one, it was a Muppet Babies keyboard. I think the color of it was like seafoam green or periwinkle or something like that.
Sure.
And I just sat on the couch and played things by ear, and ultimately they caved and got me an upright and got me piano lessons.
Well, dude, isn't it awesome? The little things that, you never know. It's something small, but it kind of points you in the right direction, and kind of, you just never know. It's like the instigator of the future for you.
You got to pay attention. Yeah, I got 3 little girls at home, and I'm like, I'm waiting for that moment.
Sure.
What are they gonna show me interest in so I can carry it through?
See, I wasn't as technical as you. I mean, I found the candy, but this one was the one that had the whistle on the end of it, and that was it. I could blow the whistle, and that was it.
That's great.
I don't know if I could call that the beginning of the music, though. But my earliest memories. I mean, I remember singing in church when I was a little kid, and. My parents didn't trust that I was going to stay in band, so they didn't want to invest in the band equipment. So they insisted that if I wanted to do music, it was going to be chorus, which turned out to be a good thing for me because I wound up becoming a professional vocalist, So it's just those little things, I'm really glad my parents did not allow me to do what I originally wanted to do, because I would have been banging on drums or something, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Watch out for the company we're around here. Yeah, I had conflicting interests because I played piano, but I was wildly into sports. So I played ice hockey all growing up. And you can imagine, my mom was like, don't hurt yourself with the ice hockey. My dad's like, forget about the piano. Come on, get out on the ice.
Get on the ice, bro.
Yeah, so it was a very unique upbringing, because usually you were a sports person or you were a music person.
Sure.
And I was like fully into both of those groups of people. So it was unique.
Well, and you were, like you were saying, you take a risk. I mean, you hurt your hands. You're not playing piano.
Exactly.
And see, that's something we never had to deal with down there. We didn't see much ice. So it rarely drops below 60 or 70 degrees in the wintertime where I'm from. But but I know you're into sports, because I'm going to tell a little Bryan Ottens story here, and I've told this one, like to everybody who I'm standing next to Bryan with. But this guy showed me never get too cocky about things that you're not really that amazing at. So you and I were part of the Gator Cases cruise.
Fun time that cruise was.
That was amazing, and if Crystal doesn't do that again, I think we should all protest.
I think we'll see it in about a year or two.
Oh man, that's amazing. So I'm on this cruise ship, and my girlfriend and I are hanging out, and there's a ping pong table. And, of course, I've got to act like I'm just the most amazing thing ever walking, so I get up on the ping pong table. I have no idea how to actually play this game. I just know that I'm pretty confident I could beat her.
And so you were beating her pretty good.
I did beat her. And then, I had the whole finger-popping thing going on and, stretching the shoulders back. And here comes this guy, Bryan Ottens. And I'm looking over there like, what, you want some? You want some of this, man? All cocky and everything. And this guy comes up and completely Forrest Gumps me like nobody's business. I mean, it was like the scene where, if you remember that movie, the scene of Forrest Gump, where he's in China, I believe it was, and the ping pongs are just flying all the way back on the table, except I was not a worthy opponent. So they were flying that quickly, but like directly at my head after they bounced off the table, and I was shamed.
Your tone changed quickly,
I would
did.
Say. Yeah. I was shamed. I tucked my head, and I walked away.
We had a good laugh about it at the end.
I laughed later. I didn't laugh at that moment. But then I figured it out, because I remember coming to your house up in Jersey, and I get there, and this guy's got a tennis court in the front yard.
Yes, sir.
And I'm like, I was totally out of my league.
All starts to come together, right?
It did. It
Put a paddle or a racket in my hand. Watch out.
So not only hockey, but
yeah,
tennis.
Tennis is now my sport. I tore my MCL playing college hockey, and that kind of ended my hockey hopes and dreams. I always did it for fun. I didn't think I would actually become a hockey player, but ever since then, I hadn't really played. So had to get into better sports for longevity. And
Sure.
that's tennis, golf, things like that. But yes, I'm an avid tennis player and fan, and try to play 3 to 4 mornings a week, 6 a.m.
Oh,
Gives me something to get up for.
yeah, that's another thing. I got a text message from you one morning. It was like super early, and I was like, "Did you just get up?" And you're like, "No, I just got off the tennis court." And I mean, I had barely been asleep for 30 minutes. You know, you're talking rock musician who doesn't go to bed before 5:30, and guy who gets up probably at what, 4:30 or so.
Yeah, 5:30.
5:30.
Like yeah. You and I need to like catch each other at like between 2 and 3 in the afternoon.
Oh,
That's when our schedules align.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You know, so now as far as golf goes,
I'm not that good.
you know, no.
No,
Are you as good as me at putt? Like I'm comparing.
I can hang.
You can hang.
but I'm not that good, and I don't get to play as much as I'd like to.
No.
Yeah, you know, responsibility, young kids at home, companies, blah blah blah. I can't get out on the golf course these days.
Totally. But I do like the fact that you do both, though. I mean, you know, because a lot of times in these communities, you know, you oftentimes see it's either music, like you said earlier, or it's either sports, and sometimes even the community will kind of tell you that you can't do both.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the kids these days are kind of directed, you know, like you got to pick one or the other. Well, why do I have to pick one or the other?
I think they develop different, skill sets.
They do.
I would encourage everybody to just do whatever, follow their dreams, do whatever they enjoy, and
Absolutely.
Worked out for me. I love both, and it really made my group of friends and people that I grew up with way more diverse. And
Sure.
I think that kind of played into things too.
Well, I mean, anytime you tell me that kids today are going to get out and be active, I just think that's amazing. You know, I mean, because people oftentimes joke that we're living in the zombie apocalypse, because everybody's staring at their cell phones all the time, and that's the only thing they know how to do anymore. And a lot of times you see, kids start misbehaving. The parent just slaps a cell phone in their hand, and there you go. And here, go do something, just chill out. So anytime I hear that, this kid's joining the sports team, and he's also in the music department, or even if it is one or the other, I think that's great. It builds things.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
So I know you went to college. You went to the University of.
I did William Patterson University.
Nice.
For all those William Patterson people out there.
There
we
you
called
go.
it Bill on the Hill.
Bill on the Hill.
Yeah, Bill on the Hill. And school was not for me at all.
And this is an interesting part of the conversation. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was always interested in work more so than school, and I overloaded my schedule during my schooling days. So at one point in time, I was working at selling retail, music retail. I was taking 16 credits at a university, at William Patterson University, and I taught private piano lessons, and I had about 37 students a week that I drove to their houses.
Wow.
So there's not many hours left in the day after you do all those things.
That's incredible. 37
private piano lessons. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know a lot of teachers that don't even take on half of that sometimes. I mean, that's.
I just word of mouth and networking, and it kind of just grew into its own nice business.
That's awesome.
For me, like an 18, 19-year-old kid, it was great. I was making, great money for that age, kind of running my own little piano teaching business.
Oh wow, man! So how long did you attend the university?
So I attended all 4 years.
All 4 years.
I actually have more credits than many of my friends who graduated, but I dropped out.
But you dropped out.
Yeah.
So my question is, well, if you went that far, why?
Yeah, you know what?
It
My
just didn't
time
matter.
had come. I think it was the culmination of a number of different things. My friends were graduating, and so the people that I enjoyed hanging out with were not going to be there the next year. I was starting to get frustrated because I went through 4 different majors, I believe. I did music business.
Sure.
I did music studies. I did business management, and then piano performance.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I just kept switching to get to a major that would let me graduate the easiest. And piano was always something that came very natural and quick to me. And so I was able to kind of coast and do all of those required courses. But anyway, I got frustrated. A lot of the credits did not transfer over when you switch majors. And so now I'm still like 16, 20 credits short of an actual graduating.
At this point, what does it matter?
It doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. Maybe one day I'll go back and
just for your own satisfaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I mean, that's another thing to me that society always tries to kind of put in people's head. That if you don't go to college, you're messing up. But you would be surprised, or you wouldn't, but a lot of people would be surprised how many people run successful businesses, own these businesses that dropped out of school. I mean, I read somewhere, and I don't know this for fact, I just read it, but if it's on the internet, it must be true, but Bill Gates dropped out of college. A lot of them did.
The names that we know.
Sure.
They had a different mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset. I always looked at it like I was calculating in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend 4 years of my life that I could be earning money, but instead I'm going into debt.
Absolutely.
Right? And so let's say from 20 to 24, 25, you're in school, accumulating debt where you could be earning money. And then you spend from 25 to 40 maybe paying off that debt. And so when are you really starting? In your late 30s or around 40 years old when you can really start making money? I'd rather do that at 20 than at 40. And that's the calculation that was always in my head. Sure. That might be a little bit exaggerated, but that's the way that I look at it.
But it's the basic premise of how you did things and where you were coming from on it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I totally get it, because, the thing is, I mean, I think from what I know about you've always had that drive. Yes. You knew you were going to be successful and nobody was going to tell you otherwise. And college wasn't going to dictate it. Nothing like that was going to tell you that you couldn't go to the top. I mean, from what I know about you, you like to win.
I do.
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
And
I'm very extreme.
From the ping pong table to the music industry, man. I've seen it. Once I stood across from you on that ping pong table, man, I saw the fire in the eyes and I knew I was screwed. There was no way I was getting out of that.
Yeah, something takes over me, I guess.
That's okay. I mean, so I mean, when you go into things like in business, I mean, do you go into it with that sports mentality? Is that kind of where that
absolutely
the competition comes from?
Absolutely. The sports analogy is a great one because you think about the time that teams put in off the court or off the field or off the ice. There's a reason why professional football teams practice blocking and tackling every single day, right? It's the most basic thing.
Sure.
But they're obsessed blocking and tackling. It's the preparation, the desire to win, and so any type of business situation that I'm going to be heading into, I want to be way over prepared, and you're ready for anything. I mean, it really is that mentality. I want to go in with the mindset to win, and the only way to do that is to be prepared as hell.
Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely see that. I mean, we share that. You're not going to. I try to go into everything that I do like, what, I might fall down, I might trip up, but if I stick with this and I'm motivated enough, and I have that drive, then eventually I'm going to get where I'm looking to go.
I'm not always realistic. It's
no.
really funny. I was talking to my parents. They were just out in Las Vegas at CES with me and got to spend some good time together. And I told them I'm going to be doing this podcast. I just did the NAMM oral history video interview.
Sure.
And for both interviews, I have no idea the questions that'll be asked. And I was sharing with them. So my mom brought up a pretty funny story about like my desire to do things, and when I get something stuck in my head, nothing's going to stop me. And so she reminded me when I wanted to play ice hockey. I was in 8th grade, and it's pretty far into 8th grade. And I told my parents, I said, you know what? I want to play ice hockey, and I want to make the varsity team.
Nice.
My freshman year of high school.
That you were aiming high.
Aiming high. And
the glass is always half full, bro.
Yeah, but here's the funny part. My parents, super supportive, loving, whatever. I had one problem.
What's that?
I never ice skated.
That's an issue because I've tried it and it didn't work out well. So
yeah, and so they laughed, and I'm like, no, guys, I'm going to do this. And so they got me ice skating lessons at the local ice rink, and I kept to it, and I played played roller hockey pretty good. And sure enough, I kind of took to it, practiced my butt off, and I made the team my freshman year.
You did do it?
I did.
Wow.
Having never ice skated like 6 months earlier. Now, I don't know if that's what that's saying about the team. Maybe the team was just that bad.
Oh, no. Don't sell yourself short. You know, I'm telling you, if that would have been me, I wouldn't have made any team. There wouldn't, not even junior varsity, nothing.
Don't sell yourself.
No, bro, look here. I'm a realist, and I know what I'm doing and I can't do. I mean, now when it comes to the things that I know that I can do, I shoot really high. I'm going to do this, you know, and one day I'm going to be this.
This I know about you also.
Right, but when it comes to things like that, man, people in Savannah, Georgia, we don't ice skate. You know, that's one of those things. I tried it. My girlfriend and I went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and that's a beautiful area up in the Smoky Mountains. And we were there, and if you take the little sky lift or ski lift, whatever people want to call it, you take that up to the top of the mountain, and there's a place up there where you can go ice skating. Now, my girlfriend is from Brooklyn, so walk in the park for her. And me, I'm like hugging the sides, you know, and I let go of it a few times, you know, and then this 10-year-old flies by me, and, you know, then you realize just how awesome you really are. And it's and it wasn't very awesome. So I tell you, if the world continuing on depended on me ice skating, we'd be in trouble. We'd be in trouble. There would be no more of that.
Well, I guess the moral of my story is put your mind to something, you could do it. You absolutely can do it.
Oh,
you got to
sure.
set those goals. You got to have that motivation, and you know that's been the foundation of everything that I do and every decision I make. It's this driving. Sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes it makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, but the thing is, what is realistic? You know, I mean, isn't that all kind of subjective?
Everything.
Right. I mean, the thing is, like 100 years ago, what we call everyday stuff realistic today, people would have thought was like science fiction.
Yep.
I mean, this stuff was, you know, at one point, who would have thought we would be flying into space? You know, people would have looked at someone who come up with that idea, and they would have called them, you know, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs or something. You know, there would have been some issue with them. You know, they would have been called kooks or whatever. And, you know, this guy's crazy. Put him in a straitjacket, give him a padded room. You know, and look at it today. I mean, you know, I was watching a documentary with these guys who, you know, many decades ago were coming out with these new medications. You know, and people back then, at certain points when they introduced brand new medicines, some people were even accusing them of witchcraft and things like that, you know. Yeah. They thought they were absolutely crazy. You know, so when you tell me that, you know, people may question whether it's realistic or not, but in your mind it was happening, that's just the way it was, and you didn't settle for anything less. People like that are the people who change the world.
Well, I was just thinking about that Steve Jobs quote, and I might butcher it, but, you know, the people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that actually do.
The ones that do it.
Can.
I 100% agree. You know, and now, you know, going back a little bit, though, in your history, I love the fact that you told me one time you worked in a music store.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, that to me hits home, because when I was first starting out in the business, I couldn't completely make a living playing music at that time. So I started out working for a small business called Roadie's Music in Savannah, and I was moving pianos. You know, there was nothing.
Good stories there.
Oh my God, there was nothing in the world that I dreaded more than walking into that job at 7 o'clock, being handed the moving truck keys, and him telling me we have to take a 9-foot Steinway up 25 steps on the island. Those were some horrific days.
But you do what you got to do.
You did it. I mean, bro, we had the winch, we had everything, we had the ramps, everything to pull it up on the dolly, and sometimes, you know, we were shorthanded, but we still had to do it.
Still got to get it done.
You know, I mean, did you move pianos? You know
I
about?
haven't moved pianos, but I worked in selling music retail, selling keyboards at Victor's House of Music. It used to be in Paramus, New Jersey. And, you know, sales were always my thing. I always had a knack, and I always enjoyed talking to people and you know, truly guiding them to get what they need or fulfill whatever it is that they need.
Sure.
So I sold retail at a music store, and after that, I actually sold high-end pianos at a store called Forte Piano in Paramus, who's still there, and the owner is Vladimir. Very, very, very good guy. Learned a lot from him. But the funny part of this story is there's only so many $80,000 to $100,000 pianos that you can sell, and the market for that is pretty slim. So as a side business within his business, he decided to do road shows at Costco warehouses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I really spent a lot of my time working for that company, going and doing these Costco road shows.
That's amazing.
Now, let me tell you what this was like. So, 100% commission. So that means if I didn't sell anything...
You didn't make anything.
I didn't make anything. It was 10 days straight, and I was the only person, so I worked open to close for 10 days straight. And oftentimes, actually 99% of the time, he didn't get a hotel room for me, so I was sometimes I was driving out to like Staten Island, New York from my house, which is like an hour and change each direction.
Wow.
So think about the hours. Think about the stress of no income unless you sell something, and then think about your target audience. Here's people that are going in for like a month's supply of toilet paper, and I got to convince them that day to go home with a piano.
How did you tie that in? You see them walking out, they've got ramen noodles, they got toilet paper, and you know what you need? You need a piano.
Oh man, and it was one of two locations too. Let me tell you how crappy this was.
Sure.
It was either in the front gate, so it's a warehouse, right? It's loud, there's all this ambient noise, and if you're at the front gate, oftentimes during the winter months, it's freezing.
It's freezing cold.
Try to keep a piano in tune, or be able to talk about the tonal qualities of something in those conditions.
Doesn't happen.
It was tough.
Oh my
God. Guess what? I crushed it. I absolutely crushed it. The average during 10 days was like 20 pianos that I sell. Sometimes we had up to 40 pianos that I sold in 10 days.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding you. I talked to
You need
thousands
to write a book.
of people.
I'm serious, and put it in there so simple people like myself can understand this. Whatever your deepest, darkest secrets are about how to sell product, don't make it complicated. Do one of those how to sell products for dummies books or something like that. Let me read it, because I want to know whatever it is that you're doing.
Hey, man.
Because that's skill.
Get rejected a lot. It's
that's
a numbers
okay.
game.
I think maybe that's the key to it, because a lot of people can't handle rejection very well, and they take it personally.
Yep.
I read a book not too long ago called The 4 Agreements, and in this book it tells you, there's a chapter in it that says, don't take things personally. And that was a big thing to me, because as a performer, when you're on stage, you want to make everybody happy, but the faster you realize you're not going to make everyone happy, the better off you're going to be, so trying to sell things, I would assume, would be in the same, because technically as a performer, you're trying to sell yourself.
It's true.
So when you're trying to sell things, you're just going to have to go ahead and accept the fact that not everybody wants your piano.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I was surprised at how many people did want my piano.
Dude, I'm shocked about it, sitting right here talking to you. I would have loved to have seen that in real time in action.
You start to go kooky after a while. You don't have anybody to talk to. You get rejected by hundreds and hundreds of people every day. So I started to try every sales tactic.
You're smelling.
Book.
Is it me? Do I smell bad? What's going on?
Looking back on it, it was an opportunity for me to truly learn sales and learn people and try out all sorts of different techniques and things. And I just had fun with it,
Sure. Well, the thing is, when I was coming into the idea of doing this podcast, Crystal from Gator presented me with the platform, which we got to give a big shout out to Gator Cases, man.
Gator is one of the most forward-thinking, wonderful companies in our entire industry.
Absolutely.
They operate at a level of some of the hugest companies in the business, and they do things more efficient, and I can't say enough good things about them. They really are a wonderful company and a pleasure to work for. McChrystal is a real thought leader and a motivational individual.
And I love, I always kind of joke around, but I'm not joking at all. Crystal to me is a machine. I mean, she is just constantly coming up with ideas, and she's constantly moving and shaking in the business, you know, and doing her thing. And, you know, that's what this business needs, is movers and shakers. I mean, seriously. I mean, and it's amazing to me how Crystal might not even be thinking about one thing, and then all of a sudden someone walks in the room and bam, there it is.
Immediate, on point, 24/7. That's what I love about her.
Absolutely. That's what happened with me doing the podcast. I was going down to Busch Gardens, and I have been thinking for a long time about doing a podcast because I've networked and met so many people in this business, and from a lot of different, you know, angles of the business, from performers to, you know, and engineers to business owners and accountants and attorneys and things like that. And I walked into the Gator Case's office in Tampa and kind of surprised him a little bit. And Crystal was in the office, and she had her back to me, and I walked in, and she thought I was Rob Garofalo, you know, one of the top guys there at Gator. And she turned around and she goes, "Oh, hey, Thomas, you want to do a podcast?" I mean, just like that, like it was instant, you know. And I was like, you know, I've been wanting to do one, so why not?
You're gonna crush it.
Well, the thing is, here's the way I was coming into this podcast, because I wanted to do one where, because a lot of people ask me all the time, especially young folks, you know, they're asking me all the time, because they think, okay, if I don't get to a certain point as a performer, then I'm just, what else is there in the business? There's a lot of stuff in this business.
There's so many niche opportunities in our
industry,
in our business, for you to become wildly successful. You just need the vision, you need the drive, you need the talent. But you know, I think people think there's less opportunity than there really is. There's opportunity everywhere. And like, this is one great example of it. Doing a podcast in the Gator booth, like,
I mean, look at this. I mean,
this is wonderful.
And this right here, this is probably kind of slow for the NAMM Show, because it's the first hour of the first day.
First hour, first day.
Within 3 hours, this is probably going to double. I mean, you know, and this is, you know, NAMM, as you know, for those of you not aware of what NAMM is, maybe watching from home, this is the largest music merchants convention in the world.
Correct.
And I mean, NAMM just does so much for the industry themselves, you know. And I tell you, I also got to give a nice plug out to Shure, because these microphones, this SM7B, man, this thing sounds great in these cans here, man. I'm loving it.
This is the #1 podcasting mic in the world.
I love it.
And Shure is the #1 microphone company in the world.
Absolutely, for sure.
For, you know,
see what I did there? For sure.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of representing Shure in New York for my career, but the history with the Peter E. Schmitt Company, we've represented Shure in New York since 1931.
Wow.
Pretty incredible, right?
Back in the early 30s.
Yes, sir. So I'm the fourth generation of ownership of the Peter E. Schmitt Company, which was founded in 1926. I'm the first non-Schmitt to own the company, and one of our first brands that we represented was Shure back in the early 30s.
Nice, man. So it's a big, thick history there. I mean, you guys.
Very.
Yeah, the relationship runs deep, no doubt.
Very deep.
Absolutely. Well, I totally understand that, you know, and that's you know, of course, the gear, the manufacturers, things like that. That's another angle of the business. And you know, so when I was coming up with the idea for the podcast, I decided I didn't want to do just performers and engineers and things like that. I wanted to do also interviews with folks like yourself who make those gears turn. There's an entire part of the music industry that is behind the scenes, and a lot of folks in the mainstream don't know about. But truthfully, if it, you know, I don't want to sell anything short here, but, you know, if it wasn't for the stuff behind the scenes, you know, performing wouldn't cut it. You know, there's the stuff that, I mean, you know, yeah, that's the beginning of music. Somebody has to perform the music.
Yep.
But especially when you get on the big levels like that, I mean, you need these business owners, and you need these engineers, these producers, and you know, these attorneys and accountants and things like that, you know.
So, like I said before, I mean, there's so many opportunities, and people that take the time to listen to the podcast or watch this, you know, I would encourage you to listen to all the guests that Thomas has on, because you'll get a good rounded view of all the different opportunities within this business, whether it's the manufacturers like Gator Cases, and it's the people that represent the brands and do more of the B2B stuff like myself. You got, I know that you're going to be interviewing Ron, and the whole attorney end of things, and Alan from a financial and accounting side of things. I mean, there's so many avenues of which you can have a career in the music business. You just gotta look, dig a little deeper,
sure,
and listen to your podcast.
Well, hopefully that's going to be the case, because I said earlier, I get asked a lot by a lot of folks, what's next, and so I want this to be an informative show for every listener. Maybe performing's not your thing, but you still want to be involved. You want to do things, and I'm a firm believer that careers are the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of jobs, but there's not tons of careers. Because I view a career as something that defines who you are, something that you're leaving your mark on the world, basically, so why work something that you're not passionate about?
Correct.
To me, it doesn't make much sense. I understand that there's a job out there for everybody, and believe me, I'm not trying to sell anything short on anyone's job. You got to make a living, you got to pay the bills. From the smallest job to the coolest job, doesn't matter what it is. And I got nothing but mad respect for everybody in the workforce. But if you can, and you find something that you're passionate about, and you can go out there and tackle that and make that the center of your absolute career, then I think that's a great thing.
It is. I'm sure many people don't even know that independent reps is a thing.
Yeah, I remember finding about it first time.
Yeah, right. And here I have a wildly successful business, and within that company, in a niche market that people might not even know exist, within my company, you have marketing, merchandising, advertising, customer service, training and certifications. I deal with Broadway, broadcast, ABC, NBC, retail giants, B&H Photo and Guitar Center and Sam Ash, DJ market in New York City. I've got corporate AV, all the stuff that goes up in all the buildings in New York City, and huddle rooms and conference rooms.
That's
I deal with
amazing.
Consultants and architects.
I love it.
Just in that little 1 minute blurb that I said there, there's so much opportunity, and there are so many different career opportunities.
And the fact that you keep it together. I mean, that's...
Always try to.
I mean, you drink coffee. There's no way you don't go through a pot of it in the morning, man. I couldn't do it. I mean, but see, that's another thing I know about you. I mean, did you remember the cartoon? And you might remember this one because we're probably around the same age here. So, remember Pinky and the Brain?
I sure do.
What are we going to do tonight, Brain? The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
That's it, man.
Is that you?
That's me. I want to take over the world.
You want to take over the world.
That's
awesome.
That's it.
I mean,
lofty aspirations.
If I had to have a dictator forced on me, if it was Bryan Ottens, I'd be cool with that. No problem.
I'm fair, reasonable. I try my best.
Now, would you be the guy who, when something goes wrong, you give the thumbs down or the thumbs up?
I'm too nice.
I'm too nice?
Yeah. I'm a thumbs up kind of guy all the time. So we'll work it out.
So if you were going to give a thumbs down and you had to pick a cat to throw them to, which one would it be? The lion, the tiger?
I'm going to go with the lion.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think I'd go with the average house cat. I mean, seriously, those things are... I read somewhere one time that the average house cat was like the most brutal, dangerous cat in the world. And their logic was, the fact that these other cats, they kill for food.
Yeah.
The house cat just kills because it's funny.
Yeah,
it's
brutal.
Like they know they're going to get the can of Friskies. No big deal. But there goes the squirrel.
Done.
Let me rip his head off. I mean, that is brutal. So, just get a room full of mean, angry house cats and
give the thumbs
down
I don't
and
know
throw
how
them
we
in
even
there.
got here.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the future here, and you tend to accomplish everything you go after, so I'm already getting prepared for the fact that you're just going to take over the world and run everything.
I don't accomplish everything. I certainly try. I've got my list of failures. So.
Well, don't try to grow gardens using, Mountain Dew. Did you ever see the movie Idiocracy?
I did not, no.
Yeah, that movie was hilarious because literally society just went so far down the drain because of this person taking over or whatnot, and they tried to literally grow vegetables using Mountain Dew.
Were they successful?
No, absolutely not. That's why society just was up on the verge of collapse. But it wouldn't shock me, you know. I mean, these things could probably happen these days. I mean, I'm sure somebody one day is going to be like, dude, I think I can make this work. Give me some Sprite, man.
I'm laughing because part of my team just walked by and they caught this part of our podcast and they just gave me a look like, what are you talking about?
Why not? I told Crystal going into this, I was like, Annie and everything's on the table.
Nice.
We're not holding anything back. I can't wait to see her face when I bring the rock stars on here. Like I believe Scott Page from the saxophone player and did some guitar work for Pink Floyd, Supertramp, and Toto.
Beautiful.
I mean, you talk about the holy trinity of rock bands. That's like mine right there.
I'll be tuning in.
Oh, my God. And I told her, I said, we're going to be bringing in these guys who were literally touring arenas in the 70s and 80s and 90s. There's going to be some stories to come up.
You're not going to be talking about playing tennis and ice hockey and Muppet Babies keyboards. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
This is one of the more boring interviews compared to those.
Oh no, man, I'm digging it. So if you had to think of some good advice that you would give to aspiring up and coming folks in the music industry, whether they're performers or whether they want to get into behind the scenes stuff, what would be your piece of advice that you would give?
Show a spark, have some passion, and don't be afraid to work incredibly hard to show what your worth is and your value before the recognition comes.
That's awesome.
I've seen a change in mentality for younger people that they're kind of like, no, this is what I'm worth, believe me, and then I'll prove it to you.
Oh, no.
No. Work hard. Show that passion and that spark. It's the most important thing. And good things will come. Just have it. Always set goals. Keep your eye on the prize.
It's like the old saying goes, the cream always rises to the top.
Correct.
So, and you, sir, you're a living proof of that. And Bryan,
thank you.
I appreciate you being the first guest on Sitting In with Thomas Claxton here at the Gator Cases booth, live from the NAMM Show 2020. Big shout out to Gator Cases, big shout out to Shure, and lots of love for Bryan Ottens and Peter E. Schmitt for doing what you guys do, man.
Thank you, sir.
For being a part of this show today.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, brother. Have a great day.
Thank you, too.